Hey guys, today we're going to make this cool little hybrid dish scrubber dishcloth thing that I just made up. I have the dishcloth down here. Plenty of room to wash your dishes, but when you get to that stubborn spot that you can't get off, well, you have a scrubby built right in to help you with that. And then when you're done, you can just hang it up, let it dry, and use it again the next time. So let's get started. I'm going to begin with one skein of Lily Sugar and Cream. This is the big skein, and I have a crochet hook size H or 5mm, and I have this little scrubby guy. I got this in a 2-pack at the grocery store, but sometimes you find them at the dollar store. You can find them in different colors. You know, whatever one of these that you have laying around will do the job. I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook, like I would for practically any of my crochet projects. And what I want to do is I want to crochet under these loops that are around the outside of the scrubby. Now, I would like to tell you that there is some kind of science to this, but there's not. It's really an art. I try and find the ridge, because if you look at this, it looks sort of like garter stitch. I try and find the ridge that is closer to the outer edge, and I try and make sure that I'm going under 2 or 3 strands of it because I want it to be durable. But I'm just going to yarn over and pull it through the strands of the plastic. There's my 2 loops on my hook. Finish my single crochet. Now, how many, how few? Again, I would like to tell you there is a science to it. There sort of is. If you wanted to sit and do a crochet gauge swatch for a project like this and figure out what your single crochet gauge is, and then figure out the circumference of the scrubby, and then estimate how many single crochets you would need to get around the scrubby based on your number of single crochets per inch and the circumference of the scrubby, I would say you go do that. You knock yourself out. I don't want to work that hard for something that I'm going to scrub dishes with. So honestly, I'm just going to work single crochet around. Obviously, I don't want so many that the tawashi pulls out of shape, the scrubby pulls out of shape, and I don't want them so tight that it's uncomfortable. So the first thing I'm going to do is go about halfway around. So we are approximately halfway around the circumference of the scrubby, and all I'm going to do now is chain a bunch to make a little hanging loop. And I'll go back. That was 10. I think that's plenty. And now I'm going to go back to the single crocheting around the outer edge of my little scrubby scrub, and I'm going to go back until I'm at the beginning of the round. This is what it looks like after the first round. Now, if you're already bored, you can move on to the floofy part. But what I like to do is put a second round on this because I really feel like just a chain stitch on the hanger is not enough because the hanger gets a lot of wear. So, as you know, if we were crocheting normally, if we were crocheting a regular circle and we were working it in single crochet, every time we did a round we would add 6 increases. So I just looked, I have 32 stitches on my first round. And again, I'm not joining and chaining one, I'm working in a spiral, and if I cared deeply I would mark that with a stitch locker, but again, locking stitch marker, I'm gonna know when I come back where the beginning of that round is. So 32 divided by 6 is 5 with 2 left over, so I'm leaving that, I'm not counting the first to the last stitch in my brain. I'm going to put 2 single crochets in the next single crochet, and then single crochet in the next 4. Your math can be different. You can do one of 2 things. You can go to the blog and look at the written pattern and do it exactly like I do, or if you're just sort of punting and you want to just go on with your life. So that was 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So remember, I want 6 increases. I'm taking 6 increases over 30 stitches because that was closest to where I was. That was a multiple of 6. So the first and the last 2, I'm just going to pretend don't exist, and I'm going to single crochet in them. So I knew that I had to put an increase in every 5th single crochet. So it's single crochet 2 in 1 stitch and then single crochet 4. When I get to the hanger, I'm going to put as many single crochets in that chain space as I feel like need to be there. Probably about 15 or so. Let's see, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is possibly the laziest YouTube video I have ever done. But again, are you gonna go bananas? Going crazy trying to put your dishcloths, are you going to try and make those into perfection? Nah, you're probably not. So you're just gonna, I think I'm gonna force that increase to the other side because I have my 3 on this side, which is what I wanted. So now I'm going to, once again, put as many single crochets in here as I think need to be there. It's going to be more than 10. It's not going to be 1 per chain. You're going to have some extra on the loop. So I'm guessing 13 to 15 would do it. And if you don't want to count, put a bunch in there until you're happy with it. And this is just for durability's sake. Then I'm going to go back down the other side to the end of the round, doing the same thing. I'm going to increase every 5th stitch. So I have 3 increases on this side and 3 increases in that side, and it's just so it lays flat. If you decided to skip the increases, what would happen? This would cup up a little bit. Do you care? If the answer is no, don't worry about it. Just make your second single crochet round and get some single crochets in that hanger loop. All right, here I am at the end of my second round. So working forward, I'm going to work in rows, and I'm going to have 16 stitches in my first row. So I want 8 stitches on this side of the round join, and I want 8 stitches on this side of the round join, and I want those particular 16 stitches because I want them to be opposite the hanger. But my yarn's over here, so I have 2 choices. One is I can slip stitches across to get where I need to go, which is what I personally choose to do because life's too short to weave in ends on dishcloths. But if you don't enjoy how that looks, you can always cut your yarn and move it. So this was my last stitch of the second round. I'm going to slip stitch across 8 stitches, and then I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And I'm going to just slip stitch in the back loop only, and I'm going to do it pretty loosely just because I have to work in those stitches again, and I know that. 2, 3, whoops, I will split, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, I said I wanted to have 16, I want to work over 16 stitches, so I'm going to chain and turn. I'm going to chain 1 and turn because my next row is going to be single crochet. Now, headed back, I want to put 2 single crochets in each of the next 16 single crochets because I want to get some gathers in there. And again, a lot of times people tell you to work in the slip stitch, but that's a pain in the butt. It's really tight. So I'm just going to go ahead and work under both loops this time, not the one loop that we did with the slip stitch, but I'm going to work into the single crochet that the slip stitch was in. So that's 1 stitch worked in, which gives us 2 single crochets. That was the second stitch. We've got 4. Here's the third stitch. We've got 6. So I'm going 2 in each across, and I'm going to keep going until I've done that 16 times. So obviously, once I have finished doing this in the first 8 stitches, I won't have those little slip stitches to work over because there's no slip stitches in the 8 on the other side of the round join. Okay, so I've set up my rows. So here's what it looks like. Here's my hanger. Here's my rounds around the scrubby to keep it solid. Here are my 32 stitches now because I put 2 single crochets in each single of the 16 that I chose to use for the row. And now it is dealer's choice. You can do any stitch in here that you want. I'm going to just alternate rows of double crochet and single crochet. The reason I'm not just doing doubles is because I think they get a little sloppy. When the dishcloth gets wet, I think the singles hold up better, but the reason I'm not doing all singles is because I don't want to work on this for 20 hours. So I'm just going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and what I like to do is add a stitch on either side of the row, again, just to keep it going. So I'm going to put a double in that very first single, double crochet in each single crochet across, 2 double crochet in the last single. Coming up to the last single crochet in my row, I'm going to put 2 doubles in there. Again, I have doubled the number of stitches by going from 16 to 32 on that single crochet round, but I do like to add stitch, so it's going to ruffle and you're going to have plenty of fabric to, you know, wash or dry your dish with. But I do like to add them on the edge. I just think it keeps things a little neater. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Now I'm going to put 2 singles in my first double. Single crochet in each double crochet across until I get to my last double, and I'm going to put 2 single crochets in the last double. There is nothing like making the video for your project and deciding to redesign it as you go. So here is my row that had 2 singles in each single. Here is my double crochet row that had 2 doubles at the beginning and the end. Here is my single crochet row that had 2 singles at the beginning and the end. And after this, I have decided it makes far more sense to work even. One of the reasons is before you start using this, it's a little stiff, so the increases didn't hang very nicely. And the second reason is with the curve right here, it just didn't look right. So I am now, so my big increases, increase at the beginning of the end, increase at the beginning of the end. Now I'm going to work even, alternating rows of double crochet and single crochet, or whatever stitch pattern you choose, and I'm going to end with a single crochet row to make sure it's nice and sturdy. So let me do this again, and I'll come back and show you. Here we are, it's all finished. We have our little hanger on the top. We have our scrubby scrub firmly anchored in this section, and down here we have lots of washcloth, or dishcloth, I guess is a better term, to wash your dishes, and then if you get a little spot that you need to scrub off, well, there it is. Thanks so much for joining me. The full pattern is on the blog. I would love a like, and I'd especially love a subscribe, but thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.